welcome to Twin Pens. On today's episode of Twin Pens, I'm interviewing my mom, Adrienne Plummer, and
Hello.
She's interviewing me, Giovanna Plummer. And we're both authors, so I thought it would make sense for us to do this episode together. So you can start by asking me your first question.
Okay. What inspired the story of your book?
The issues with Palestine and Israel arose, and I just wanted to capture everything that's happening over there. So with King John burning down the churches and the really just burning down everything in Serenity, that was inspired by what's happening with Israel and Palestine. Then finally, just women's empowerment. So we have fempires, which are female-led empires. And that was just something that I wanted to tap into for this story. So I'm going to toss this question back to you. What inspired you for your book?
So who inspired me to become a poet was Nikki Giovanni. I actually stayed in a room that had either her desk or a dresser that had her name on it. I was an English major when I went to Fisk University. She was an activist. She was a part of the SGA. I actually worked for the school newspaper, and I interviewed the SGA president at TSU. Their school was protesting that year in 1990. I would say also she was a poet. She was a professor. I am now a professor as well. Her last job, I think, was working at Virginia Tech, and she also came to Fisk University as a guest lecturer. But I believe she just passed recently. So I think she was about community. And it just seemed as I was listening to her in a video, she seemed like somebody that I knew.
So on that note, I also want to talk about one thing that inspired me that I forgot to mention before was actually reading your stories growing up. So you used to write a lot of different short stories when we were kids. And I really liked reading those. And I was like, I want to write stories myself. And you also had Maya Angelou's book of poetry. And that's what really inspired me to be a poet and a writer. So it's a generational thing.
I believe it is. Who is your favorite character in the book and why?
So this is going to sound kind of strange, but my favorite character is King John. And it's really strange because he's an awful character. Like, I hate him. I would never want to interact with this person in real life. But I think writing a villain challenges you as a writer because you have to give them a full character arc. I don't want to make any static characters. So to make King John dynamic, I had to give him a backstory. I was really inspired by the Hunger Games prequel where they were talking about President Snow, and they actually gave him an in-depth backstory where he wasn't a villain initially, but he eventually became a villain. So just that kind of mindset is how I develop full characters, and that's why I hate to say it, but King John is my favorite character to write. So for you, I'm going to say, did you face any challenges while writing this book?
Editing, adding new poems, changing things. It took months, and then adding the cover art and the blurb on the back. So it's been a process of 1 to 2 years. So finally, it has its finishing touches. I think because your grandmother passed in October, I wanted to add her picture and a little something about her. And yeah, I think it's something she would be proud that finally I'm putting my English degree to use. I'm actually being a writer now. So yeah, and I was an English teacher for many years. So, and my fondest memories were when I was at Fisk University as an English major. I had a feminist as a teacher. I had Dr. Collins. He introduced us to the Harlem Renaissance. I also had a Black female activist as a teacher. Writing poetry, writing stories brings out your activism, brings out your love of Black people, a love of stories, and rap is like poetry in motion. So I'm a great hip hop fan, been that way since the 90s, and I think you all grew up loving hip hop too. You're a rapper, you're a spoken word artist, you're an editor, and I was proud when you went to Northwestern and you were in the journalism program. I was like, oh yes, Black girl magic. So yeah. And let's see. Are there any real life experiences or personal connections that influence your story?
Whew, okay. So there's a lot of real life experiences that influence chaos and magic. For one, the dynamic between Zola and Elwin was based on a previous relationship of mine. And actually, not just one relationship, but multiple relationships, and just learning who I am and what I want out of life. So that dynamic kind of came from that. But also, Zola and Nez was based on past interactions with people. But then, on a more positive side, my friend groups within the story were based on some friend groups that I had in real life. Like Zola and Zakia are like me and my best friend Genevieve. Like they're very tight. They talk about everything. They celebrate each other, stuff like that. But then also Zola, so she has 2 siblings. I have 3 siblings, but 2 from my mom. And that's really based on like growing up the youngest of 3 and just dealing with the challenges of not having a lot of money. That's something that comes across in Chaos and Magic. Her father is very gun-ho about making money and saving money, and that was kind of based on my grandfather. And then Zola and her mom is not only based on me and my mom, but also me and my grandma. So just those dynamics. So it's a lot of personal experiences that I put together to create this book.
The themes I explored in my book, The Shy Brown Girl, were basically the title, CHI is short for Chicago. I am a native Chicagoan. I grew up on the South Side. I am African American, a female. My skin is dark brown. And I would say ever since I was a little girl, people always talked about my skin tone. People always remember me by my skin tone, by my smile, by me being quiet and shy and whispering. It wasn't until I turned 30 that I started speaking up and speaking out. So I talk about things in Chicago like Navy Pier, like the Air and Water Show, like the summer events. There's the architecture, there's buildings, we have skyscrapers, we have the skyline.
I talked about my love of basketball ever since Michael Jordan days back in the 90s. Me and your auntie, we used to watch the Chicago Bulls play. They brought they spotlighted Chicago, in a positive way. I said we have a lot of great athletes in Chicago. Like all our teams have won at some point. We're now proud of the sky.
Shout out Angel Reed.
Yes. So also Beyonce, hip hop. Always been a hip hop fan. Always loved the rappers. Movies as well. I think it was Love Jones. Love and basketball, like always a movie buff. So I think there is a point where you and I collaborated on the 3 J's growing up, how you loved Harry Potter, how we loved different shows and different movies for the holidays and just throughout the year. I also did a poem about breast cancer because I am a breast cancer survivor. So yes, we do the Making Strides breast cancer walk each year, and this one was epic. I had my pink Cowboy Carter hat on, and so it's a celebration of pink in October. That's why my campaign was Power in Pink. I think pink is a feminine color, but it's also a color of empowerment for women. I think with Donald Trump in office, the first time he won, women across the globe kind of protested, and I think when Kamala was running, women kind of banded together of all walks of life, of all races, religion, creeds, whatever, sexual orientation, and we, came together and collectively voted. Like 92% Black women, shout out, AKAs, Azetas, all of them voted for her. And I guess my thing is for women to always speak up, to speak out, and speak proud and loud, and know that your voice is being heard, and know that you matter. So, and celebration of being valued. First of all, love yourself, and you have to teach other people to respect you. So that was what I put into that book, I would say. And so for you, what is the most challenging part of the writing process for you?
So with this book, I'll say it was 400 pages initially.
Wow.
Very long. And actually, I'm working on a book of poetry that is almost 600 pages, but I'm breaking it into 3 volumes because I don't want to overwhelm people, and I also don't want to overwhelm myself with editing. So the most challenging part is deciding what I want to get out, what's the most important message. And I think with Chaos and Magic, I just decided I wanted to give a glimpse into Serenity and Shala, because I didn't want to overwhelm people with all the gritty details of this world that I'm building, but I just wanted to give you a glimpse so I would get my toes wet in the whole fantasy realm. Okay. And then eventually I hope to make it a series, but I'm just going to say it's one book because I don't want to put that much pressure on myself to make it into a series. But if it gets there, which a lot of people have asked me to make it a series, if it gets there, I will be glad to do it.
And so, I would want to know, would you want to make a movie out of it, like they did Harry Potter? It was books and then movies.
So with Chaos and Magic, it was actually inspired by Game of Thrones, and that was a really good show, except for the fact that they didn't represent Black people well. So that's why Chaos and Magic is a counter story to what they did on Game of Thrones. So I would love to see it acted out. I would love like if I could get somebody like Doechii to play Zola. She's very charismatic. And then maybe somebody like Zendaya to play Hillary. Just some names that I'm putting out there. And then Issa Rae, I don't know who I would want her to play, but I want her somewhere in the movie. Also SZA and Keke Palmer. I think they would be funny as Zola's friends. So I just a few names that I've thought about. Maybe Cynthia Erivo, because she just did Wicked. That would be cool to include her too. And then maybe directed, I don't know, maybe like Ava DuVernay, Ryan Coogler. Who's the guy that did? Did Ryan Coogler do Black Panther? He did.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's just some people I would want to direct the movie. Jordan Peele too.
I was gonna say, please.
So I guess my question for you is, how do you deal with writer's block?
That's a good question. I would say, with that, I guess you have to just find a muse. Find something that inspires you. It could be a simple thing, a flower, music, whatever's going on currently. Like I notice when I write poems now, it's usually something that has occurred, good or bad, and then I just start writing. It's like a journaling type of thing. So, and you can be inspired by anything. A cup of coffee, a flower, the train. It's all tied to like rhythm and music and beats, and it's like getting into a zone. Once you start writing, it flows. So I have had writer's block, and I would say writing a whole story is challenging to me because there are so many details you want to put in that story, and I thought it might be easier if I write poems, because you just jot down some lines, make it rhyme, and then it flows. So it's kind of easier for me to write poetry than actual stories, because my stories can go on and on and on, not knowing where to finish. But yeah, I'm finding I like writing the poetry more so than the stories.
Would you ever branch into fiction?
I have written some short stories, and I remember the story about AJ, the basketball player. It was inspired because your brother Josiah played basketball, but at the time I wore a cast. And so, like, in the story, he was like the star athlete, but then he kind of broke his leg and he was bummed out. So it was a combination of things. I would, maybe children's stories, I would say. Yeah, that might be something I might look into, like me as a teacher for primary grades, a picture book and a simple storybook that second graders and third graders could read.
So I feel like that's a question for both of us because
Yes.
we did opposite things.
We did.
So I did self-publishing because I'm just a maniac and I just want everything done my way and I don't want to adhere to other people's guidelines.
Yeah.
And the reason why I do that is because I really want to get my voice out, but not only my voice, other people's voices. So I publish through my own company, Escape Publishing, which is a division of Rebel Media. And yeah, it's just something that I wanted to do.
Okay, and then I had wanted you to publish my book, but I think you have a lot of things going on with videos and writing yourself. So I decided to go with a publishing company because I wanted to not only just be on the shelves locally, but I wanted to maybe branch out, globally across other countries if I could, because I want to inspire as many girls, Black and brown, and all girls in general, of all in all countries. I want them to know that their voice matters. So, yeah.
Was that your question or my question?
I think it was a question I started, and then we both answered it.
Okay. What advice would you give aspiring authors trying to publish their book?
I would say try, if possible, the self-publishing. It would be a whole lot cheaper. It may take a little time. If you're a computer savvy such as yourself, that might work. I think a lot of young people probably would go that route. If you're a little older, you might want to do the traditional thing that's going to cost a little money. So you may need that 9 to 5. You may need a sponsor, a loan, or whatever. Whatever works for you. That's what I would say. And don't think anything is trash. What you think is trash may be treasure for someone else. Write it down, jot it down, go with it. Whatever comes to your mind, 3 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock at night, get up, write it down. Could be a whole book. So, yeah.
So, Chaos and Magic is part of my universe. So, I have Mo's Mix Queendom, and Afrofest. And those two are directly linked to each other. But Chaos and Magic is more so looking at female empowerment and a broader scope. And it's also looking at race relations because all my characters are Black. I remember Toni Morrison saying she writes Black characters because nobody else is going to. So that's one reason why I have all Black characters. Another way that they compare is having a female protagonist. I do have stories with male protagonists and I do want to publish those one day. But I think at the place I am now, I really want to empower young women like myself to tell our stories because there is so much rich history in female lineage and legacy. And on that note, I do want to do a story where I explore like my family dynamics, because I think we have some interesting stories that we can tell. And even in my book Rage and Sage, which is my book of poetry, I have one poem called Mama Tree, and I talk about my mom, my grandma, my great grandma, my aunt, my cousin, my sister, because I feel like we descend from matriarchs, and that's just something that's been important to me. How do you balance writing with other aspects in your life?
I guess I pause for the writing part. Like there'll be things going on, but I always set aside that time to write. I'm inspired as well, like you have written about our family lineage, I guess because my great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother, she, the family, they moved, they made that migration from the South, Cary, Mississippi, and she, without like a college education, without a business license, she opened a grocery store in the front of her home. And she was the only grocery store for the Morgan Park area at that time. And I would say our family is middle class, and everybody in the family got married, brought a house, had a good job, they saved their money. So that has inspired me to want to now be a writer, to write books and to join that middle class and maybe upper class where I can purchase property and build generational wealth. So it's important for me to set that time to not talk on the phone, to not watch shows, to after I get off work or before work to jot down some poems to prepare for my next book, and then my next book, just keep writing as many poems as possible to fill 7 books so I can keep that money flowing, because eventually I'm going to retire and I want to just be able to have my money work for me instead of me working for my money. So yeah.
I think I want to piggyback on that because one of my goals is to become a career writer.
Yes.
I want to publish 1 book every year.
Yes.
And also, this is just a little announcement. So, Rage and Sage is a volume of 3.
Yes.
And it will be published in April, October, and then the last volume will be published on my 30th birthday, March 25th, 2026. So that's just a little shameless plug. But I like that you said you want the money. Can you say that again?
I want the money to work for me instead of me working for the money. I had heard that before from someone. And
yeah. Like having the money work for you is a goal of mine. I want to really build upon my grandma's legacy because she had a house, she had a husband, she put her daughters through college, she put her grandkids through college. Shout out to her care packages.
Yes, yes, and she was a baker.
Yeah,
so
her cakes were so delicious.
Yes, epic.
My favorite one was the strawberry cake with whipped cream, and then she used real strawberries at the top. It was so good.
Yes. I think with so many great people in our family, it keeps you motivated. I know when she passed was sad, and we do have moments where we have struggled financially, but she has been there, your auntie has been there, and they helped me when your father passed, be the best mom I could be, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was young, had a college degree, and just was overwhelmed with 3 kids. But, Grandmere, she retired. She and Claudia stepped up, and Claudia gave me a card when your father passed, and it said, "This too shall pass." Brown girl from the shy, sometimes she's shy. When you walk past her, she might not say hi. But on some days she will. It depends on her mood, how she feels. Usually she's happy, giving you a smile, cracking jokes to keep you laughing. Other days she's quiet, lost in thought, thinking about Black equality, women's issues, social justice. It's a lot. Why worry, you say? It's just the way she's made. As a Black woman, mother of 3, she's arriving to be what God intends her to be. You feel me? When she sees something not right, she just might engage in a fight with words that ring true, to give just due. Her words are not meant to offend. She intends to bring about resolution, so we as American people can mend. There's going to be a shift. Uplifting Black people is the gift. just due for their labor, toils, tears, and lives. So black people in the Chi, and that's CHI, let's be peaceful and nice to each other, setting an example other races can sample. Black love, black pride, let's embrace the new 60s with stride. Like dominoes, it will pay it forward. In God we trust, moving toward a better future. Deuces.
So that was the Shy Brown Girl out of the book, The Shy Brown Girl. And now I'm going to read you a little excerpt from chapter 6 of Chaos and Magic. The title of this chapter is Remember the Time, between Dion and Kubu. The journey through the white rainforest was daunting. Zola held her hands to shield them from the conditions, but the power of the forest chipped away at her barrier. As they were walking, Zola saw a loft in the distance. "What's wrong?" Elwin asked as he watched the barrier start to fall. "We're not going to make it," Zola said. So, in closing, I just want to say thank you all for tuning in to Twin Pen, my new podcast for Rebel Media, and stay tuned for more. Bye.
Deuces.